So for this video, I'll show you the latest drawing I did. I thought, man, I haven't done a Drake piece in so long. I have done 3, I think, in the past, and all of them I've just been whatever about. So it's been over a year, I would say at least a year, since I've looked at pics of him. And with his new Certified Lover Boy album coming out, that whole campaign and stuff, I figured there's probably more pics, maybe some more good ones to choose from, because he's an artist that I always had trouble finding pictures. They're always just, they weren't really good photo shoot pictures, but I'll show you. I took a look and I happened to find a pretty good one. And it's not even from a photo shoot. It looks like it's just him outside, just like a candid shot of him like crossing a street or something, since the sun is coming down on him so hard. The neckline almost disappears because it's so bright white, and you get some real deep shadows, which I love doing for pencil drawings. So this drawing I switched up a little bit. I added a background to it. Typically I just do the portrait and I'm kind of done. Kind of like low-key afraid to mess it up, you know? I'm sure a lot of people feel like that, but yeah, I thought maybe I could do something different with it to accentuate with the portrait itself, make it more of a piece. So I go in and kind of explain, I sketch some ideas, and throughout the drawing I actually kind of switched up the background, so I had to erase and alter some things you'll see along the way. But that's just how it goes, and pretty happy with how it turned out.
Please hold for a very important message.
Okay, whenever I start a project, I always make a playlist of all their songs and albums and features. I'll play it and get going. So going in, I will start some of the darkest parts, so the eyes, the eyelashes, eyebrows, and the hairs. Once I get the beard going, I'll go in and kind of blend it out. And it's amazing how much of a difference that makes. Even just blending that out, how much life it brings to your drawing. And now I'll go in with some lighter pencils, some harder ones. And go in making corrections with the kneaded eraser or the mechanical eraser. When I started the drawing, I started off listening to Nothing Was the Same. That's just personally my favorite Drake album. I think front to back, it's the most playable, and it's just a timeless one of his. It's always relevant, and it has some really great features on it. As for some of the other ones I was listening to, I always forget how good If You're Reading This, It's Too Late and What a Time to Be Alive collab album with Future is. But man, those have some bangers. Those are real good. So I really enjoyed going back and listening to a lot of his older stuff. Some other ones like Views. That was one that didn't stand out too much for me when initially it came out, but going back and listening to it a few more times definitely grew on me. Same with More Life, but it definitely fits more of like the playlist vibe. So I wanted to add something to the background. Typically the pencil drawings I do are just portrait, but this one I felt I could do something a bit more with, so just kind of conceptualized a few ideas. Thought I could make it more substantial as like a piece. Yeah, that's what all this is. All the ideas of, you know, the gradient I wanted from dark to light to the top. Thought maybe to do the flowers there, but no, I ended up just doing the normal logo down here. I did draw it and even like that, but didn't like it, erased it. So since his next album, Certified Lover Boy, is coming out, figured I would make like an album cover. I'm pulling from those old kind of vintage band t-shirts or hip-hop t-shirts with the gradient text and these shaded backgrounds that are typical with comic book drawings, which is what I started out drawing. The one album that grew on me the most, I would say, is Scorpion. Again, it was like Views for me, where I wasn't quite sure when I listened to it initially, but this was probably the album mostly on repeat. That album really hits hard now for me. So a tip when you're doing stuff with rulers on your final drawing, like your good drawing, before you put the ruler down on the paper after you've already drawn a line, just flip over your ruler. The one that I'm using has like this cork backing. Make sure there's no graphite powder or charcoal powder on that cork or whatever backing you have, because when you go to put it back down on the paper when you move it, that mark will transfer from the ruler onto the paper, and that mark is sometimes hard to fully remove, so just something to keep in mind. So when you're doing a background and you want it to be a gradient, so you can see I'm using a few different pencils, and I go back and forth from using a blending stump as well as a brush. Blending stump is a good way to initially cover a lot of that surface to fill in the area, and brush works better when you want to fade out, you know, a dark to a light. So in the lighter areas, if you want to fade it out, so you can see near the top here, when you want it to end in white, it's best to use a brush. You get that really light fade going. see from this sketch how different the final product is from the concept that I had, and that's just how it is. You know, you have an idea, once you start to work through it, you realize that it doesn't work for whatever reason, so you move forward to something else and you just tweak it as you go. So you can see once I get along with my drawing and I think it's getting close to done, I'll leave it, I'll come back to it the next day, and then I'll analyze, and I break down these little points that I noticed to improve it. So I break it down into sections. So I look at the hair, and then I'll put what I think I should do to the hair to make it better. Forehead, the eye, and so on and so on. I find it really helps. So now I'm just doing the final touches on the drawing, just going over some of the little details on the shirt. You can see some of the lines in the fabric and pulling out some of the highlights in the face, touching up some mid shadows there. And finally just darkening some bits of the hair, and this is pretty much it. I'm gonna call it finished. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Bit different from some of the previous ones I've done, but yeah, hopefully you guys liked it and you enjoyed. So thanks for watching.